All righty, let's make it happen today. Welcome back to another episode of the MuuvWell Podcast. Things are a little bit different today. Abby Murphy is running the Boston Marathon as we speak right now. You have the app? Can we give a little update? Do you have it on your phone, Wade?
He was checking it right now. I was literally just
Yeah, give us an update.
On it.
And she doesn't have really like a time goal or anything. I think she really wants to just kind of bask in the experience. But
Right now, Abby is sitting an hour and 41 minutes, hour 42 minutes now. Just turned over into the race. She is 12.72 miles in. So she's right at like an 8-minute pace.
Solid.
She's keeping. So
that's really
she
solid.
said when she went, she wasn't trying to PR.
Right.
She hadn't really tapered for this race because she's just been more focused on getting married next month, more so than getting all laser focused in on the race. So she was just going to
adjust her priorities.
Yeah. So when she gets back, we're going to talk to her about you've got to go laser focus. And wedding's not that big of a deal anyway. So.
Should we add that to our hot take list for the day today?
Yeah,
we'll take
PRs over weddings.
Yeah. Weddings are overrated. PRs are way more important.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, I saw where she was not tapering for this race, and it was obviously strategic. I think she just wants to like keep her mileage up as she goes into her wedding. And I think at this point, like she just loves to run. Like she just likes stacking up mileage, and I think it's probably a big, I would assume, like maybe a mental health thing for her, but I think she just likes that type of training. Like I said, that kind of goes into the stuff we'll talk about today. And Abby actually has been doing a ton of behind the scenes stuff, pretty much 95% of it when it comes to the podcast with the planning. And so she hooked us up with a really cool topic today, a really cool concept of just kind of going through some like fitness hot takes and just kind of some quotes here. And we'll kind of go through and give our take on that and see how we feel about it, because obviously these are hot takes, but everybody's different and everybody's opinion and lifestyle is going to be different based on where they're at in their life. So we have a list of about 15-ish things, and we really just went through this right before we started. So we didn't have a lot of time to like overthink it. It'll be more so on the fly, initial instinct. But yeah, we'll just kind of go through it right now. So the first one we have is you don't need intense workouts. You just have to walk a lot and you'll be fine.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
No, I think for me, I think that take or whatever it depends on who you are and where you're at in your fitness journey. I mean, for some people, a walk, just walking could be an intense workout, right? Like, I mean, if maybe you've not done something at all, and maybe just getting off the couch going for a walk is tough, or maybe even mentally tough, or it could get your heart rate up. I know there's people that we've worked with before that going for 10 to 20 minute walk, their heart rate is very high. And so I think paying attention to your body specifically, where you're at, where you're trying to go, what your goals are. Obviously for us, we train not only for just our health, but we also train for performance. I mean, we're trying to PR races and go really long distances and stuff like that. So for me, yes, that probably wouldn't be appropriate. I'd need to do some more intense activity. For some other people, maybe the walking is the intense activity, in my opinion. I mean, I think it really you have to kind of know who you are, what you've done, and where you're trying to go.
I think I'm going to give a lot of PT answers on this, because when people ask me questions and advice, it depends.
Yeah.
It always depends. It just depends on, like what Kevin said, who the person is, what their background, their fitness is, and what their goals are. Right. So I mean, it just totally depends on that. But yeah, if you're training for performance, it's not going to get you there. But if you're just trying to train just overall longevity and just your general health, and that's healthy for somebody just getting started, and heck yeah, then that's perfectly fine.
I also think I think you need to pay attention to the type of walking you're doing. So I know individuals that go for walks and it's incredibly slow. Maybe they're looking at their phone or whatever, and they're doing it they're doing it to improve their fitness level. But just walking, there's a difference, right? Like you can walk for aerobic exercise and really push yourself. Like if I go walk with my mom, I can barely keep up. I mean, she is walking with a purpose and it's intense. There's very different types of walking. You know what I mean? So if I'm just going to clear my head and go for I mean, who cares? But if I'm walking for exercise, I think even there you could be intentional with it. And even walking can become intense, even if you're in pretty good shape, in my opinion. Like, for me, sometimes I go ruck. And so I'm walking, and it doesn't get my heart rate up like if I was running, but it's still rather intense. And I'm wearing 40 pounds, I guess, or something like that on. So again, it does depend. But I think if you're going to walk for exercise, I think you can walk with a purpose. And I think a lot of people do fail there. It's like, wow, man, I've been walking an hour a day. I don't know why I'm not seeing the results. Well, how are you walking? Because there's a big, big difference in pace.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like I think like to your point, Kevin, I think it's just relative to everyone, what your fitness level is, what your goals are. But then, yeah, I think about when you're going through that last statement you said, I think about when I take my dog on a walk, it's not for exercise. It's just to get her out because it's a lot of like stop, sniff. We might walk a little bit, but
For
it
you or
takes
her?
us for me.
Okay.
It's a lot of sniffing for me. And she's like, come on, Logan. No, but I think it's a good point. Yeah. You know, you never know.
You never know. You
just
have to
never
ask
know.
these questions.
Exactly. You know, and that's part of being intentional with your walking. No, but I think, yeah, like to Kevin's point, you have to be intentional. And there has to be, I think if you're going to exclusively walk, I mean, I think there has to be some intensity to it in terms of like picking up the pace a little bit or doing it a lot for a long period of time. Like my grandma, she, I remember when I was in high school, she walked every day for like an hour and a half. I'm like, if you're walking, I mean, I would think it was like 6 days a week. If you're walking 6 days a week for an hour and a half and you're moving pretty well and you're doing it for the purpose of working out and getting your heart rate up, that was relative fitness for her at the time. So I think it just depends on each person. But yeah, like Wade kind of said too, like it depends, just kind of where you're at. It depends if you're coming off an injury, if you haven't worked out in 5 years, even though you used to run a lot or lift a lot. But yeah, I think it's a case by case per person. Next question. If you eat clean, whole foods, you don't need to worry about your calorie intake.
Sounds like a Wade question here.
I mean, my first take is that's not true.
It's not true.
No, I mean you can eat in excess no matter what.
Yeah, I could be eating 10,000 calories in whole foods a day and I'd still be gaining weight. I mean, obviously it's healthier for you. But also when I think of like the caloric density of those whole foods, for me to get 10,000 calories of eating kale or celery or carrots, that's a ton of food.
Yeah.
Like I could eat
probably get
10,000 calories of Pop-Tarts and 6 Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Maybe not that many, obviously.
So
But
a lot
is that
less.
the argument though is that you can't overeat if you're eating whole foods?
I'm saying it'd be a lot harder because
Yes,
you're going to get full faster.
So
if you're
maybe
heavy protein, heavy fiber. I mean, like it's going to be hard to overeat when you are eating whole
so
foods.
I think it's
maybe
easier.
that's the thing. You don't have to pay attention to what the hot take is.
Well,
right?
I think yeah, that is the hot take. But I think you can if you're intuitively eating, I think you can eat whole foods and not worry as much about overeating.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like, I'm trying to get 8,000 calories by eating whole foods, like that's different. But I think if you're just going throughout your day, you don't want to track your food, you're intuitively eating 100% whole foods. I mean, I feel like you can.
I don't know.
You can overeat regardless.
When I eat like mixed nuts, I could probably eat like 20 handfuls.
Yeah,
and that's
160 calories a handful or whatever.
I mean, it just depends on if it's like carbohydrate rich.
Wade eats mixed nuts with a bunch of M&Ms in it, though.
Yeah.
The only time I've had that
Mountain Trail
recently
mix.
is that
the Walmart Mountain Trail mix.
Kevin brought it.
Hey,
Kevin was running an
He
ultra
was
marathon. I
throwing those
was
back.
vicariously eating them for Kevin since he wasn't eating on the race day.
No, I can tear those things up. No, but I mean, even if you eat just like a pound of ground beef or a pound of turkey, like things like that, I mean, that stuff still adds up. But especially, I think the nut is a really good example of that because you can just eat tons and it's just like it's calorically dense. There's a lot of it, and especially when you're eating out of a bag of trail mix, you just throw it in and
going.
yeah, it's just like
It's hard to stop.
Yeah, it's hard to stop. All right, next question. Endurance training kills gains, raises cortisol, and is outdated for aesthetics. Well, that's a lot. I think we go one by one. Endurance training kills gains. Look at me. Look at me. I don't think it kills gains. I think being a parent kills gains.
No, I think it could if you're training for an ultra marathon, 100-miler.
Yeah,
it probably.
can.
I guess as she said. I guess the question is what kind of gains.
Yeah,
I'm assuming this is like muscle mass gains.
Yeah,
I think you only have so much time and energy for output, and so like if I'm training for an ultra marathon, I'm probably going to sacrifice a little bit of body muscle mass.
Yeah, I mean one thing. Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to like just whatever you're intentionally prepping for. Like if you're prepping for an endurance event, I think that's kind of like it's a known thing. Like okay, doing this, I'm likely gonna lose a little bit of muscle mass, or I'm likely gonna lose a bit of strength. Whatever it is that you generally have, I think is gonna suffer a little bit, and vice versa too.
From a physiological standpoint, though, I mean, if I'm lifting just like I would normally, maybe I'm trying to increase my muscle mass, and I'm also training heavily for endurance, and I'm getting adequate calorie intake and protein,
you should be able to maintain.
It should be able to maintain. Right?
As long as you're getting quality sleep and you're recovering at the same time.
I think that's the myth. I think probably what that question's alluding to is that people think if I run a lot, it's going to destroy my muscle mass.
Right.
Like, no, it's not. I mean, as long as I'm doing the things to maintain that muscle mass, it's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's a really general statement too.
But I think if I'm training for the Boston Marathon and trying to do a PR, I'm likely not going to bench press as much as I normally would.
Right.
As far as spending time in the gym doing that, shouldn't really, if you're trying to, you know. So I think, and that's why you sacrifice the gains. The endurance doesn't just eat your muscle away.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what people will probably talk about or get confused about.
Yeah. And I think if you exclusively do one thing over the other, that's going to happen anyway. If you just run, then
I also think whenever you're running, you're burning a lot more calories than you are when you're just lifting weights too. So you're obviously going to be burning a lot more calories. So you've got to be able to supplement it with just more food, more calories.
Trail
honestly,
mix.
To preserve where you're at. Yeah, more trail mix, more M&Ms specifically. Yeah.
So cortisol levels, that's something I'm not super well versed in.
Same, yeah.
But
not super well versed either. But I mean, it's just your stress hormone.
Basically. Yeah. And I'm assuming if you're training hardcore and doing 100-mile weeks, you're probably going to have a pretty high. I mean, that's performance training. That's not necessarily. So I would imagine your body's going to be kind of flight or fight state.
Yeah, your hormones are taxed anyway after you do any big events, right? I mean, and when you put down a lot of mileage or you do a lot of training in general, not just running, but I think endurance training, I think it probably correlates a lot more with high cortisol levels compared to high strength training volume.
Well, I mean, when you're at higher endurance, you've got longer durations of stress on your body, right? So strength training, I mean, you're maybe hour, some people 2 hours max at that. Whereas running, you could be going if you're training for an ultra marathon, 5-6 hours at a time,
right?
Longer, you know, if you actually train.
And I think the type of strength training, if I'm doing like a hardcore CrossFit workout, that's going to be sky high. Yeah. If I'm doing more just, trying to build muscle mass, normal gym kind of routine, probably not going to be too bad.
But then that's where I think the cortisol level is going to come in, where if, let's say, Kevin right now is training for an ultra marathon, he has physical stress. He's also trying to strength train more physical stress. He's having poor sleep quality because of those. It's going to raise his cortisol.
Yep.
He has work stress, family stress, everything just on top of it, right? So I think it all just depends on just finding that good balance of making sure you recover, you're eating well to help just maintain it.
Now, if I'm not pushing like that, like the scenario you mentioned, but I'm doing sufficient exercise and those kind of things, it really could probably lower my cortisol level.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's just it goes back to, again, it's kind of,
it depends.
It depends. It's the individual, but also how hard are you pushing?
What's the volume?
What's the volume?
How much, yeah.
Because exercise could be used in a way to lower that.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times too, the last part was that endurance training is outdated for aesthetics. And I think a lot of times too, like what's showcased on social media a lot of times is the extreme parts of endurance training. Like there are a lot of people that don't post on social media, that most people probably that strength train 3 days a week and run 25 miles a week. That's endurance training too, because it's a lot of volume on your body in general. And in that case, that's great for aesthetics, I would imagine, if you have a proper diet as well. And now I think it kind of goes like all of these, if it goes back to how you're training. If you're training 70 to 100 mile weeks of running volume, your aesthetics are going to look way different than if you were running 25 to 35 miles a week and strength training 3 to 4 days a week. Like in terms of how you look is going to look a lot different in both scenarios, obviously.
Yeah. I have the whole aesthetics thing. I think people get and I guess that is a big reason why people exercise, you know?
Oh yeah.
But I think that's a hard thing to maintain too. If you're doing just strictly for that, I mean, I don't ever think about that really, as far as I'm doing this, so I'll look better, but I know that and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think I've just found people that's their motivation. It's hard. It's very hard to maintain a consistent routine, because eventually, where do you stop? Like where's the line on the whole aesthetic thing? I mean, usually it's either gain more muscle or lose more fat, and sometimes that can be unhealthy.
For sure. Especially if you have a certain look. Like if I ever look worse than this, then I'm going to change things up. But it's like, really careful with that.
Yeah, it could also improve your if you do. And I'll be honest, like if I improve aesthetically, I feel good about myself. I mean, you do, but there's just such a fine balance on that. I try not to think about the reason. I think it could get to an unhealthy space if you're exercising just for aesthetics.
Yeah.
You just gotta be careful
Mhm.
and keep that in mind, because you just never want it to go too far either way.
Yep.
You know?
I agree. Next one says everything should revolve around getting stronger, as that is the base of fitness.
I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah. I don't think everything should revolve around that. Like, I mean, you just said we do it for performance purposes,
Yeah.
like if for performance, I guess if you want to get technical, like we want to perform to be a stronger runner. And
Now, when you
Also, no, go ahead.
go, no,
No,
go,
you go ahead,
go,
Kevin.
Dr. Wade.
I mean, I would just think though, but if you don't have the baseline strength
Yes.
and you're trying to ramp up your volume as a runner, you're going to be injury prone. You're never going to meet your potential there anyways.
Right.
So I think strength is the baseline that you need for it.
yeah,
Strength, the mobility, and the endurance will come.
And
And the
I think
mindset
about
comes into that.
longevity too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Strength,
as
yeah.
far as longevity, just living a healthy life, usually some of the research points to this, maintaining strength levels is
Yeah.
one of the most important things you can do to increase your longevity. When you look at like a lot of the data we look at for like work related injuries and stuff like that, usually it's strength is the number one factor driving that. And body weight, body mass. But there was a study that came out, and I can't cite the study. I just remember I could have made this up, but I'm pretty sure this is true.
Kevin Wynn's study in his head.
Good chance.
No, this is several years ago, but this was like 10 to 15 years ago that upper extremity injuries had for the first time surpassed low back injury as the leading work related injury, or most expensive work related injury.
Yeah.
And the reason that has happened is they've seen a correlation of decreased upper body strength in males, which I think is fascinating, because the reason that we're seeing that is because we're
Sedentary.
more
right?
sedentary, you
Yeah.
know, just in life and work, and also in children. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't go out and play and stuff like that. So they're starting to see that since we're weaker now, there's just way more work-related injuries. So work-related injuries are sky high, which is interesting also because we have so much more innovation and robotics and things like that.
Right.
So it's just, but it just goes back to people are weaker than they
Yep.
used to be. So I do think strength is super important.
Yeah.
I don't do enough of it. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, the last race I did, I could feel that like later on in the race, like I'm just not strong.
Yeah,
Like, I can
same.
just feel my body's not strong right now. And I do have some like, nagging kind of low back stuff or whatever. And I think it's because I'm just gotten weaker.
Yeah.
Because I've been running so much.
Yeah.
So-
We literally just had that conversation we were running last week, Kevin. We were both saying how we can feel the effects of not strength training as much. And I told Kevin, like, the strongest that I've ever felt from a running standpoint was when I did MS Run the US in 2022. It was like 2 weeks before the segment started. Somebody had dropped out of that segment and they were like, hey, would you be interested in running? And it was 141 miles over 5 days. So basically a marathon a day for 5 days. And at that point, my weekly running volume was 25 to 35 miles a week, but I was strength training 4 days a week. And that's the strongest I've ever felt running. And I ended up doing a 50K the first 4 days, and the last day did like 18 or something like that. And that was the strongest I ever felt. And I think that's just like a testament to literally what we're saying is like being strong pays off.
And I've been thinking about it too. I mean, in 6 weeks, I'll be 38 and I'm approaching 40. And every decade of your life after 40, you start losing muscle mass. I mean, we just know that. And I was thinking for myself, like from a longevity standpoint, I've really got to start taking strength training more seriously now. I used to when I was younger, it was more for performance, for sports. And then, I just don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So my focus has been on running right now.
It's easier to step out the door and go on a run. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I beg to differ. I think it's easier to get in the gym and lift some weights than it is to.
I mean, I'm sitting there staring at weights
Yeah.
right now in
It's
front
right
of me.
here in front of
I
us,
have
so.
it. I mean, it's right here at my disposal. But I'm like, gosh, I really got to start taking that seriously if I want to, if I want to run 100 miles at 75 is what I say that I want to do. So I've got to start getting
At
stronger.
this rate, you won't be able to stand up from that chair.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
like withering away.
Oh,
I get this
gosh.
puffy elbow.
Yeah,
all
what the
this
heck's
stuff
going on, dude?
I mean,
But even in like all my geriatric patients I've seen in a PT clinic, the main thing I would test them for is like general muscle strength, right? And just try to improve their strength when there's nothing else to improve. And more likely their quality of life is going to increase. Because like Kevin said, strength training is not something, because we're not doing physically laborious jobs anymore. It's not something we really focus on or intentional on anymore. So I would say that's probably the most key factor.
And I believe that's why we used to not have a lot of gyms back in the day.
You
I
didn't
mean, a
need it.
long time ago.
We worked on the farm.
People were working
Yep.
and doing stuff. Now we have to artificially create heavy things for ourselves to lift. I mean,
Yeah.
we used to just do that naturally.
Mhm.
I mean, I know I do in my life. I'm just always,
You were carrying this
Right.
table in here.
Yeah.
But the normal person, I'm joking. No,
Yeah.
I need. Like,
Kevin gets an elbow injury from holding his daughter.
Holding
Yeah,
his daughter. I think there's some holding
in
holding
the
her too
glider.
long.
But really, the research points to, for longevity, you have to control your body weight, and like in a healthy. It doesn't mean you have to be super skinny, but you need to be in a healthy body weight, and you need to maintain strength. And if you can do those two things and eat pretty well, you're gonna live a long time.
Yeah.
Unless
Generally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good take, fellas. Next one, you can easily get all the protein you need from Whole Foods. Shakes and powders are overhyped. Technically, you can get all the. You easily can.
In this economy, man, it's hard to
Technically,
get that.
It's hard to
It's
do it.
expensive.
That's true.
It's
The
hard to
idea
do.
of it is great. Actually,
For me
doing
though,
it,
I mean, I'm trying to, like, when I'm hitting my protein goals, it's around like 210 grams a day.
it's a lot.
Grams? Yeah.
Yeah.
Grams a day. That's a lot of protein.
A lot.
So for me, just to get it through food is very tough
Mhm.
and expensive.
Yeah, you
A
can.
lot
I'm
of
saying you
time
can. Yeah, you
prepping.
can find a lot
So-
of.
So usually I try to like
Protein-dense
supplement
foods.
like one protein shake a day.
Mm-hmm.
So technically I could just eat, what did that be, like 8 more eggs?
Yeah.
And who wants to eat that many more eggs
Right.
a day? Eggs are
And
expensive.
hey,
good.
they're not cheap, man.
I know Kevin could, but he also doesn't eat for 6 days and then he'll eat one day.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't know why I lost weight.
Yeah. I mean, you technically could. I mean, it just depends on like what your ideal weight is, what your ideal
Sure,
ideal
yeah.
protein
But
is, how big you are.
do you think that we push the supplements a little bit too much?
Oh, they're over pushed. They're
Yes.
definitely pushed way too much.
Yeah, I mean, not that supplements are bad at
No.
all.
Well,
don't
I think
they're
they're-
bad, but they're supplements.
They're called supplements. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people think if they start exercising, they have to be
Taking-
constantly taking
yeah.
stuff all the time. And I
Yeah.
do think people over supplement a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah.
And maybe the people selling them the supplements aren't real educated on it, and so they sell them more than they need, and this whole cycle there.
Honestly, this deserves a podcast of its own. The
Yeah.
supplement industry.
And I would love to get, we our friends at Stack Nutrition, they're and I think Stack does a great job. I think they have a really good approach to that. It's like, hey, this is a supplement, and they try to give you the tools and the resources there, and they try to educate their employees, and they're not all dietitians or nutritionists or anything like that, but I think they try to give them some baseline knowledge so they're not overselling people. I will say that I think they do a great job of that.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to get them on here.
Yeah,
Hear
bring
their
Drew
take.
on.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, Drew and Brandon on. Yeah, Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drew at the Stack Supplement store here. They an example. And Drew is like young. He's so knowledgeable and so like ahead of his time. But he was talking to our friend Chad about, Chad has he had zero baseline fitness. Like he just wasn't knowledgeable of it. He'd always worked like blue collar-esque jobs and all those things. And Drew had basically told him like, and so Chad said, well, how many times can I have this? He goes, you can do up to twice a day, but I would really do once and try to get the most out of your foods. Like that would be an opportunity for someone like Drew to be like, why don't you get a couple tubs and have as many as you want a day and get all your protein through it. But like, that's not the ideal case. And honestly, I mean, if you have a lot of protein, it does not sit well in your stomach. Like it'll make you feel bloated and all that. But
I mean, I think meeting with somebody that our clients have access to, a dietitian, a registered dietitian, or somebody that has a really good background in nutrition is giving you the right advice, and that could be your physician. There's not a lot of primary care physicians that really totally get that as well as they should be, and they probably admit that. But there are some that do really get it. Sit down with somebody like that, understand what you need, and then really try to see how much of that you can get from a diet. I think it's probably the best thing to do. And then if you're short in that, or if your budget doesn't allow, okay, how can I supplement this in a healthy way? I think that's the best way to start. But I think always, we're made to eat food and not just take stuff that's in a powder form. I mean, if we can eat it, I think that's better.
Yeah,
and I think even the act of chewing and stuff is good for us.
And it leaves you full longer. I mean, it just
leaves you satiated
triggers
way
different parts
longer
in the brain. Yeah, just keep you full.
Yeah. And you think about, I was literally having a conversation with my wife this weekend, and I'm always fascinated by jobs like in the medical field, like nurses who work 12-hour shifts, work overnight shifts, and like how, especially ones that take their nutrition serious and like make healthy eating choices, because I mean, I can imagine how hard it is to work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and make conscious eating choices that are always good. And it was this nurse, and she had showed, it was like a day in the life eating as a nurse who works an overnight 12-hour shift or whatever. And she just made such solid choices. Like she had like healthy fats, she had a lot of protein, she had healthy carbs. And as I was watching the video, I remember before I even got halfway through it, I was like, gosh, her skin is so, like, you could just tell her skin was like glowing and healthy looking. There was no filter on the video or anything. And then I like go to the comments. I'm just reading them. People are like, "Oh my gosh, your skin, like your diet speaks like through your skin, and you can see like there's other benefits to that, you know."
Yeah.
And I mean, I always say like since I become a dad, I've got more gray hair and my skin's more wrinkly. I'm like, but my diet is so much different. I'm like, I'm sure that's probably a testament to it too. Is like we're eating more on the go, and it's like the nutrition choices obviously. Getting a quality protein intake or macro intake in general is good, but also you can really look at like the micronutrients on nutrition labels too, and also just look up what's good for like healthier looking skin, for better energy, like things like that, and you can gain a lot through.
Yeah, and there's so many good resources.
those.
Like our app's great, our MuuvWell app.
Yeah.
You can scan labels and it'll tell you all the
What's in it.
macronutrients and those kind of things. And it's nice. I mean, you can track that and keep up with it. So it's a really nice feature that we have. Also, one of the things we're not touching on, but I think like water is so important.
My gosh.
And I think we love to drink all kinds of drinks. We think, oh, if I drink this drink, it'll. But there's nothing better than just plain old water. I mean, I think water is such a key. I didn't feel great over the weekend, so I just wasn't drinking a lot of water. My stomach didn't feel great, and I felt like my body aches when I don't drink water.
Same. And low energy, dude.
Yeah,
such low energy.
Yeah, so I'm pounding this thing today, man. I'm almost half gallon in.
I need to break mine back out too.
But I think water is so important. Body weight, maintain your strength, drink a lot of water.
Yep.
Eat whole foods.
And eat whole foods.
Yeah. Whole foods. Yeah.
Key.
Yeah.
Key.
For real. That was a good one.
It's pretty simple.
Also, I think we were talking the other day. There was a study that came out that shows people that like grandparents that spend time, or elderly that spend time around kids or with their grandchildren, their life expectancy is much longer because it gives them purpose. They come back from injury quicker or surgery or illness quicker because they want to be healthy so they can play with their kids. But we had a t-ball game on Saturday, and then after the game, one of my players, his sister was playing and my daughter was playing the other game. But I played tag with that kid and my son for an hour, and it was just like, just playing with kids and being around kids and trying to. I don't know. I think as adults, sometimes we just think, well, we can't do that. No, I don't want to do that. And just running around and playing tag is so good for you.
Yeah.
And it makes you happy. It makes you feel good.
That's what I was going to say.
I was getting my heart rate up and I was exercising and it didn't even feel like I was,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And I'm going to skip down some questions since we're kind of like leading into that a little bit. Is mental health is central to our fitness. And I think it's central to our fitness, but it's like central to probably longevity, obviously, because when you think about, when you have things especially the grandparent analogy, like when you have something to look forward to, like going to play with your grandkids, or even if you're a parent and you're looking forward to going to your kids' games or playing with your kid after school or after daycare or whatever, I think those things directly correlate with like your ability to want to be fit and want to be active and want to just like show up, and so yeah, like what's the take on mental health is central to your fitness? But I think also with that, like just central to just being active and longevity.
I think there's a direct correlation between both of them. So I think without fitness, your mental health struggles, and with poor mental health, your fitness is going to struggle. I think you need both.
Yeah,
I think they're super important. Going back to the kind of playing with kids thing, the other day I had some other neighbor kids at the park. I had 6 kids by myself out there. It was Benita's kids, actually. We went down to the playground in our neighborhood, and there's a little baseball field there, and they were running the bases, and they were trying to race me. So I'm like just dead on sprinting, but I was
not letting them win.
No, I beat them every time. And
put that on as eulogy.
I even gave him a 3-second head start, still beat him. But I was thinking about how many people my age, if they went out and tried to do that, they would pull a hamstring or something like that. And I was feeling really lucky. That wasn't the back of my mind. I'm like, man, I could because I wasn't warmed up, I just dead sprint. But I was thinking, I love that I have the ability to be able to do that. And I think about how many parents can't do that, or they can't go down the slide with their toddlers like I was doing, or climb up. I mean,
I did that with my kids this weekend. I barely fit in the thing.
Well, that's a little different.
It was scary, man. It was scary to fit.
But what a blessing to be able to do that,
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's why I want to keep my fitness and my health good, so I can do those things, and hopefully I can do that when I'm a grandpa and do that for my grandfather. I remember playing when he was 80, playing baseball in the backyard, and him running and jumping. As we threw the ball at him, and he was jumping over the ball. It was wiffle ball, and I remember him doing that at 80 years old. But back to the hot take. What was it? I don't remember.
Mental health is central to your fitness.
Yeah.
And I think and longevity.
Yes. Yeah. So I get excited about mental health stuff. But, I told Logan the other day, Wade, that I think after we did the podcast with Emily, I was like, I think I'm supposed to be a therapist.
But then I told Kevin, I was like, I thought that too. But then Emily constantly reminds me that like it's not your responsibility to like give advice every
Yeah.
time somebody talks to you. Sometimes you just need to listen and like be on their side. I'm like, see, that's where I would struggle.
Yeah, I think I would
It's like I'd
too.
always have to have an answer. I would feel
Yeah.
like, you know, whereas Emily like sits and digests. I'm
Yeah.
like, that just doesn't seem as fun to me. Maybe life coaching will be more
Yeah,
our
maybe
route.
so.
That's maybe
I
that's
love
more.
that stuff though. I was like, gosh, I wish I'd have known about that in school. Like I would have loved it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now, I mean, especially since COVID, it's just like, I mean, obviously the need for that in all areas, work, personal, everything. It's a lot more needed.
But we did that podcast episode after I went to on the retreat at Gethsemane. So the monastery
Yeah.
that I went to a retreat on, and it was really fascinating to me because they don't exercise, they don't have a gym, they don't do anything, but guys are living to 100 years old there. And like, okay, well, what's happening?
What are they doing?
They're not doing fancy diet, nothing, you know, but they have really strong spiritual wellness. They're living this really routine life and kind of, I mean, from the outside looking in, especially from today's standards, you think really boring. They're not talking to each other. They work in silence, they live in silence, but they're fulfilled, they're happy, and they live to be 100 years old. Like, why? And it's because they have a really strong sense of spiritual wellness, which is living a purpose-driven life. Like everything they do has purpose. The reason they don't talk has purpose. So how they work, how they interact, it's all purposeful. And they live a long time, and they're not, but they are active. I mean, those guys they're making even the 90-something-year-olds are at the desk working a job. One of the guys I think was 100, and he was working a job, checking people in. Like they keep working, they stay active. You know, it's fascinating.
I think it all just comes back to having a purpose. And everybody's purpose is totally different.
Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
I
Keep
mean,
going. Keep talking.
No. I just think that's what is essential to it. You know, I mean, it's going to greatly impact your physical well-being. So, I mean, if you don't have a purpose, but you're like, I just want to go run a marathon. Why?
Or
Like, why
I
are
just
you
want to
doing
look good in the mirror.
Okay, why?
Is that a
Yeah.
You
strong?
got to dig a little deeper. I had a guy I was talking to after church on Friday, and he was like, you know what? I want to get back into running. And usually I would just be like, yeah, man, well, come out and join me Saturday. I'd love for you to have me out there. I was like,
Sure.
why? And he
Oh,
was like,
hit him with it, Wade.
And he thought
I
a little
like it.
longer. He's like, well, I mean, I guess I just want to feel better. I was like, well, it's got to be a little bit more than that. Why do you want to feel better?
You've been around
And
Kevin too much.
so I got him to finally answer that he just wants to be more present, better dad. You know, they had a lot of issues.
So that's his why.
Having children, and they only have one kid. And so he has a big why just to be there present for his wife and his kids. So, so I think it just always goes back to your purpose. So if you can always start with your why, I mean, Simon Sinek wrote a book about it. Start with your why, then your when, what, how, everything else will make sense coming off of that.
There was this podcast that Jordan Peterson was on, or it was Jordan Peterson's podcast. Had this
Start
guy.
reading the book yet?
Not really.
I'm about 37-ish pages in.
Yeah.
It's just all brain anatomy right now.
Okay. Yeah. Me and Wade both bought this book after listening to this podcast, but the guy he had on talked a lot about, they call it a room line, room line. I think that's how you say it. But when you sail, like you have your destination you're trying to get to, and then you have a line that's like the shortest way to get there, you know, it's called the room line. Or I can't remember. Anyway, something like that. But basically, you're going to get off course. But the important part is you still kind of have that line guiding you. And the goal is to stay on line and maintain your aim as well as you can the entire time. And basically, your purpose is the destination. The room line is what you're trying to follow to get there. And so if your purpose, like your guy you're just talking about, is to be more present with his kid, well, then running is just a tool. That's just part of the tool. Like that's part of the room line to get them there, you know? So I think a lot of times we focus it'd be easy to say, I want to start running and think that's all there is, but that's not deep enough or strong enough. And he may not even have realized that's why he wanted to run, you know? So now you got him to think deeper. Now it's just all a tool to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just hard because he's like, I've got to go do these big events. I'm like, no, you don't, man. You don't have to do any of that. I mean,
well, if your purpose is to be more present with your children,
I mean, it starts small and just incorporate your kid with it. I mean, heck, like me running now and me pushing my kids, going way slower than what I want to, but I'm spending time with my kids. It serves a dual purpose.
Yeah.
And it all works out. Plus, they're seeing our habits that we're setting.
Like for me, from the performance side of, I want to do 100 miles and I want to do it under a certain time. Does that totally fit into my life purpose? My life purpose is to help, is for people to experience the glory of God. And so I've realized that the more we've kind of gotten into it, is the Saint Irenaeus quote of the glory of God is man fully alive, is I want people to help people experience that in their life. And so does me running 100 miles under a certain time do that? I think it does. And the reason I think it does is because it's teaching me how to grow and to push myself and putting myself in a really tough situation and being able to stay positive and get through it. It's almost me just rehearsing when real actual life things are going to happen. And so for me, it does fit into my purpose. And so performance is important to me, but also, you know, you can kind of take it the other way too. But so I'm not trying to perform. Back in the day, I wanted to perform because I'm competitive and I want people to know who I am, and I want
more self-centered. It
was more self-centered, and now that's pivoted. But I'm still seeking performance and the training and the running and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to see how that's pivoted, and now it's made it. Now I don't feel. I don't know. I don't have this like sense of guilt if I can't train or whatever too. Though.
Yeah,
you know, it's so different. It's different. I don't know.
I think people downplay the parts of training when you set goals. They think because they like set goals to do it a certain way or a certain time. Like, and I feel that way too. I'm like, am I doing this for the right reason? Like, is it egotistical of me to like want to run 100 miles under 20 hours or whatever it might be? It was like, no, but part of that process is just going to make it more challenging than it was the last time. And that's exactly what I want, is for it to be harder than it was the last time. And I'm going to experience something new and like different hardships and different parts of the process that were way more difficult than last time.
Yeah. Bro, you guys are Frozen dads. You have little girls. So Frozen 2. That movie, the more I keep thinking about it, there's some profound scenes in that movie. But the spot where Elsa goes down to the very bottom, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And she's like,
we have to skip over that because it makes Eliza cry.
Okay. You need to watch it without Eliza.
Oh, I mean, I've seen it.
It's such a powerful scene because it's like, basically she's kind of like asked why enough. And she gets down and she starts seeing what things really are, you know? And I'm like, I'm getting chicken skin, boys.
Golly, man. It's a good day.
Give me goosebumps.
Oh man, here it goes.
But then the song that goes with that is just so good. The lyrics are great. I was like, gosh, they totally, it's pretty good. It's pretty
honestly profound. Super. We're kind of getting off topic here, but another
hot take, Disney gives purpose.
Yeah, Disney.
If that's the case.
And you know, same with the Wicked movie. Like it's a prequel to the Wizard of Oz. But when I went and saw it for the first time, I had no context of how it was going to look, what happened during it. I just know Emily had seen the play like years and years ago. And when I went and saw it, I like watched it all the way through, and I get to the very end, and like the wizard was like this person that everybody looked up to, and they thought he was great and he was like changing the world for the better. And you get to the end, and basically Elphaba, she gets to the wizard, and her like wish she wants granted by the wizard is to like save all the animals because she sees them being pulled away and locked in cages. And turns out like he's the one doing all that, and he wants to use her to contribute to that. And you get to the very end, I'm like, oh my! But then she like at the end of the Wicked, the first part, she like pulls away and does her own thing, and so then they frame her to be the Wicked Witch. Sorry, I'm spoiling it, y'all. But it is.
I've never seen Wizard of Oz or Wicked.
So. But you need to watch it. But seriously, it's like, oh my god, and it makes you like, I don't know, like little stuff like that. It's like sometimes like if you have like a gut feeling or you like have a drive to want to do something, like just go do it, man. Yeah. Freaking defy gravity. Defy gravity out there.
Is that one of the songs?
His new tattoo.
Yeah, new tattoo. I'm gonna get defy gravity behind my ear. Is that okay? Get permission
just
for that
as
one?
a teardrop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
But anyways, going back to the mental health stuff, I think yes, I think it all goes together. You know, I think you got to have if you're in a horrible place mentally, you're not going to exercise. If you want to improve your mental health, exercise can help that. But it's just there's such a close relationship there. But the biggest thing I've figured out is like in my life, I think it's just keep asking yourself why. Father Randy, my spiritual director, taught me that. It's just when you come up with an answer, then you ask why again, and you keep, and eventually you get to the bottom of whatever it is, like Elsa did. And you start discovering and then you can come up from that. And then you start aligning everything you do according to that purpose. And that gives you good mental clarity, good mental health, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll have a couple more here. Next one, this kind of goes back to more just like fitness. But mindset matters more than the mileage. Yeah, it's a tough one.
I'd say yes.
I think so too. I mean, you can't be like, oh yeah, I'm going to run this 100-mile race and then run 8 miles a week. I mean,
you've got to have the mileage too. Like if we're talking running specifically.
Yeah, but it kind of honestly goes to what we were just talking about. I think a better question
is, where is that trade-off? Like at what point?
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes what you were just saying about the guy who you talked to, Wade, was like, I want to run. It's okay. Well, why though? Like if you want to be a better father and husband, you just want to build character, then I don't think you have to run 80 miles a week at that point. Like just find a balance that you get that, get the trade-off essentially, like what you just said.
And I think in a race, I've seen so many good, and I love our race, the Hot Rod Ultra, because you have people in a 24-hour space and you like a fishbowl and you watch them. And I will say the people that do well in that race typically are not the best runners.
Yeah.
They have pretty good fitness. They have baseline aerobic abilities. So it's not like they haven't run or they don't train. They definitely have that. But they're more so very strong mentally. And they're usually the ones that win.
Yeah.
Or the ones that really surprise. Well, Abby Murphy, right?
Yeah.
She'd never done ultra marathon in her life.
Yeah.
But you could just, from the outside looking in, you could tell she was really mentally strong.
Yeah. Can we get an Abby check-in, by the way, Wade?
Let's get it.
No, I agree with you. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I love so much about the, I've told you guys before, my favorite race I've ever done, I still think was the Backyard Ultra, the last soul standing. What I love about that race is like, it's about being the toughest, not the fastest.
Yes.
You just have to pace yourself and find a sustainable way to like, just be tough. And that's what I love so much about it, because then, I mean, literally, I mean, you're going against other people, but essentially it's like, how far can you go? Like, it doesn't matter if you finish the same amount of time as somebody else, like it's who can go the furthest.
Right. Abby is currently 2 hours and 22 minutes deep, still maintaining an 8:03 average pace.
Solid.
She must be shooting.
She's
for
having
an
fun today.
Eight average is what she's shooting for.
Yeah,
Probably.
she's 17.63 miles in.
Yeah, she's having fun today, I
My
bet.
buddy Sam Bland has just finished.
Crazy.
Shout out to Sam Bland, Hardensburg's finest. Came in 536 out of 28,809 people.
Solid. What was his finish time
His
then?
finish time was 2:36.
Wow.
Goodness gracious.
5:59 a mile. So good job, Sam.
That's probably exactly what he's going for, sub 6 minute miles.
He said he was shooting for 2:35.
Okay. Can't downplay that
No,
still, man.
That's amazing.
That's really impressive.
Crushed it.
Awesome. All right. Next thing. Actually, let's go. We'll have two more. So the next one is yoga and strength training are essential for runners.
They're not essential.
I don't.
no.
Yeah, I don't think.
Do either
both,
y'all
especially.
strength train or do yoga?
No.
Then no, right?
I mean, I
Yeah.
strength train some, but I don't do yoga.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's essential.
Would I
think
like to do it
Yeah.
and to make you feel better and maybe perform better,
Improve?
recover
Yeah.
better? Yeah. Are they essential? No.
Yeah, I don't think they're essential.
Will you maybe get hurt more? Yeah.
I think that
Will you have more hiccups in your running journey? Probably.
I will say for longevity, I would
Yeah.
probably argue and say strength training is essential because you're going to get a lot of that. I mean, you're going to
You
get
want to run for a long time.
for longevity. Yeah. I mean, again, it's not like essential to do the act, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of people, me think of like CrossFit style workouts or High Rocks workouts. I mean, it's a couple miles at most if you're going to do a workout, you know, but if you're looking at long distance stuff, it's probably closer to that essential word mark, but anything else?
I got two more.
No, I'm
but,
saying anything else on that topic?
that
before we move
that
on?
one? No, I, don't
No.
I think it's good to do. You should if you can, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be able to if you do. I think especially the strength. Like you said, no, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
I'm going to reword
I
the.
think the yoga too for longevity. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lot of people, I mean, we say maintaining strength, but if you don't have, because
Mobility,
usually when you have the
flexibility.
strength, you're going to have the mobility and the flexibility to be able to
Right.
do those movements. But some people may just be able to have the mobility to be able to just sit on the floor with your kids.
You know what's funny, though, is
stuff
like-
that. It's easy.
You know what's
to
funny
overlook.
though is this is speaking from I think like ultra running specific standpoint, but do you remember weren't we talking about there was like an article that came out where someone like did a study on ultra runners with less mobility could run longer and had less
Oh.
injury or something
Oh,
like that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I need to find
but
that.
sometimes you can overemphasize the stretching and the mobility aspect where you need the joint stiffness to actually
Yeah.
like be a mechanical runner.
Yeah.
You know, so having, I mean,
you can be too lax at some point.
Where the sweet spot is having that ability to go through the full range, but your body is strong enough to maintain that stiffness during the act of the
Sure.
actual movement. Whereas like if I'm running and I have the mobility and I roll my ankle, but I can recover from it because my body has that ability to go through that motion and recover quickly. It's huge. But if I'm so stiff and then I roll it, then you're down for the count. So where the sweet spot is have the mobility plus the strength kind of meets that sweet spot, and your body actually has a neural ability to be able to be mechanically sound.
Yeah. You gotta be able to do the ultra shuffle. If you're too mobile, then you can't do the
Going
ultra
back on
shuffle.
the question before, I was thinking about this, the on the mental toughness and stuff like that. There's kind of this known thing that like people that are fast, like road racers, like fast marathoners, are not good ultra marathoners. And I think it's because of the mental side. I mean, everybody kind of, oh yeah, he was fast on the road, but he's not good at it. Now there's some that are just really good at everything.
Yeah.
I think if you're fast on the road and you have the mental toughness, you're gonna probably win every ultra race. But that is a known thing, which is interesting. So it just shows there is something different there that you have to have for like 24 hours plus of running. It's like there's so much more on the mental side.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, then there's people like Jim Walmsley, who is a fast marathoner that can do
Yes.
ultras. Like there are those anomalies, you know. But I think for us, this is getting so off topic, but you think of like ultra space, like it's so niche, but we're just invested in it, and so we see a lot more of that.
Yeah.
But big picture, yeah, there's not a lot of crossover of really good marathoners that are good ultra runners.
Yeah.
You know, or they can do long distance stuff. Yeah. Last question, I'll reword it like a little bit. It says personalized training plans are a game changer, but I kind of want to ask, like, personalized training plans, are they essential to maybe successful fitness or like good fitness?
I think Wade's answer depends. You know,
Yeah.
like, I think if you've never done anything before, it could be helpful.
It could be very helpful.
Very
yeah.
helpful. You know, I think about Chad, who's training for our race. I mean, he probably needed that.
Yeah.
He's never done anything like that before. So I think it's important so he can stay on track. Because I used to kind of Wade and I's mentor, PT, used to always say, you know, exercise is kind of like medicine. You're trying to figure out the dosage. And, you know, sometimes we can overdose on exercise and sometimes we go under, and it's trying to figure out that right balance. And I think if you've not really trained for something before, you don't really know what the threshold is and the balance is. I think for me, I mean, for what I do now, I have to have enough experience. I don't really necessarily need it. And it helps me kind of be able to control my schedule and stuff. And I don't feel bound by like this structured routine. But I think for some people it could be really, really helpful. I mean, obviously that's what our business is to help people.
Where I think it helps people the most are people just getting started.
Yeah.
Or like the ultra performance elite athlete having that structure to stick with.
Yeah.
And then like we're kind of in that middle ground where it's nice. Like I have somebody that just programs my strength training for me because it's
Mindless.
something I don't
too,
have to
yeah.
do. I show up to the gym and I have pre-programmed what I'm exactly going to do. But I definitely think it definitely helps more in the early stages and then the very late stages. But for the everyday person, it's probably not necessary.
And as long as you got some experience.
Yeah.
But you
know how to do it
need to have a
safely.
baseline of somebody to teach you. And then think sometimes having just maybe you are kind of experienced, but just having the accountability can be very helpful.
It's huge. Yeah.
I'm one of those people to where I'm so hard on myself that I don't necessarily have to have the accountability because I'm probably my hardest accountability partner. But for the majority of the population, I think that's very, very helpful, even if you're experienced.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
that kind of depends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it definitely
depends.
Yeah. It all depends, man. I think when it comes to, I've only really had personalized training when I started ultra running, because before that, I think if you're just an active person, you can kind of figure out what to do in the gym.
And there's enough free resources out there,
There's
honestly,
so
like
many
training plans that you
resources.
can stick with.
Yeah.
You know, but the hard part is the accountability, like actually sticking to the plan. And that's where the coach comes in, just having somebody you have to report to.
And I think that's what most of our clients like. I think a lot of them, they're like, hey, I could kind of figure some stuff, but I just want some accountability. I want somebody to guide me and help me.
Cheer you on, give you advice, you know, and you're going to mess up and you're going to fall off whatever program it is. No, I don't know anybody that's ever stuck to a program to a T.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe a few elite people, but just being able to have that accountability, have someone give you feedback and just get back on it and not letting that snowball into a week, 2 weeks of poor decision making.
Well, I think what I found the most benefits from when doing personalized training is when I started ultra running. And honestly, like in the moment, it was very helpful, the accountability, but honestly, the resources I've taken from her when I used her as a coach, I'm like, I've learned a lot just from her, and I can just kind of carry that forward and try it in different ways based on whatever distance I'm running or whatever event I have. So I think being able to like really be a sponge if you're going to hire someone to coach you or personal training, like a good coach, a personal trainer, they obviously want to keep your business and keep helping you and serving you, but also like they should really want to teach you along the way too. That way, eventually it's like, hey, like my coach, Caitlin, her name was Caitlin, and she was amazing. And within like 6 months, she was like, hey, you should try to get a ultra running coach certification. Like, I think you'd be really good at it. Like this stuff seems to interest you.
Yeah.
And so like someone like that is always really beneficial too. Like someone you can like take knowledge from, and they're not just like, okay, go do this. And then that's it.
All the best coaches are teachers, and they teach you the reason behind you're doing it. Because if you understand why you're doing something, again, it kind of goes back to the why and the purpose. You're going to be more likely to stick to it. Right. So, I mean, I think that's a very strong quality every coach doesn't always have, but it probably needs.
I think also it's important to remember, like, you know your body better than anybody.
Yep.
And like, you know, you can have somebody laying out the structured plan, but you've got to get to a point where you
Listen.
listen to your body, you listen to how you're feeling, and then you know better than anyone when to push or when to hold back.
Yeah.
But also just getting out there. I think sometimes we can kind of make an excuse to start something, to say, oh, I need somebody to help me or do this for, coach me. There's something to be said of just getting out there and figuring it out and failing too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of my running journey and fitness and my whole life, everything, even business. It's just me getting out there and doing it and then figuring it out. And that's the best teacher.
Same.
And then having somebody that you can come to and that can kind of guide you within that is probably the sweet spot. Having a coach that has that teacher approach, that's going to let you kind of go out and try and experiment and fail, but then also be able to support you in that when you do mess up or you succeed, and like, hey, you know why that worked? That's because of this. Like, that's what's important.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you are in control of your own destiny. You are your own coach, and you know yourself better than anybody. And you've got to. There's just something to be said about that. I think every person, that's like an essential part of your life. You've got to go out and just try something.
Yeah.
And figure it out and not be afraid to fail.
Practical experience.
Yep.
It's the best teacher, in my opinion. Just
Yep.
trying it, see what happens, see what sticks, see what doesn't work.
Yep.
Moving on and trying it again.
Yep.
Well, good stuff today. Thanks to Abby. She'll be finishing up.
Well, one more Abby update.
the
Let's
one more
see where
update.
we are at right
She
now.
should be finishing up
Abby
soon, yeah.
is at mile, pulling it up, 18.7. So
Okay.
she's only got a few miles, 7.52
Okay.
left.
Yeah.
She's crushing
Single
it.
digits.
Just cruising. Think she's just out there enjoying herself. I'm sure she's
That's awesome.
spreading the love of Jesus out there and just
Always.
loving on people out there, So seems like she's just enjoying herself.
And Abby's got a quick turnaround and travel too. So like they're leaving tonight to come back. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
she's
sure.
got to work tomorrow, so we're not going to let her off.
Yeah, we're not approving. You didn't approve PTO,
I
right?
didn't approve PTO.
Okay,
for today,
good.
So
Okay, good.
she's supposed to be sending an email after this. For next week's
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, she needs to be done the next 30 minutes. That's supposed to go out really soon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, but thanks to Abby for putting this together for us today. Always crushing it, and proud of her for running Boston. That's a big race. If you guys aren't familiar with running, it's one of the biggest world majors. So really big deal and really cool that she gets to do that. And she's obviously going out there to do it for reasons beyond her ego. So that makes it even more enjoyable and really cool to watch. So thanks for watching another episode. Thanks for listening to another episode. Catch you guys next week.